Every year in the United States, nearly 800,000 people suffer a stroke. On average, someone has a stroke every 40 seconds, and every 3.5 minutes, someone dies from it. The most alarming fact is this: more than half of these cases occur in people over the age of 60, and most of them had already overlooked the early warning signs. A stroke doesn't always strike like a dramatic collapse in the movies. Often, it begins quietly, with a slight droop in a smile, a weak arm, slurred words, or a moment of dizziness that fades away on its own. Because of this silence, hundreds of thousands lose what doctors call the golden window, the one chance to protect the brain from permanent damage. During a stroke, the brain loses about 1.9 million cells every single minute. And once brain cells die, they can never regenerate. That's why doctors call stroke a race against time. If you delay, the outcome could be paralysis, memory loss, or permanent loss of speech. To see this more clearly, let me share a story. Mr. Allen, 72, walked every day, ate clean, and never smoked. One morning, while watering his plants, his vision blurred in one eye, like a curtain had been pulled down. Within 10 minutes, everything returned to normal. He thought it was just fatigue and ignored it. Months later, he suffered a major stroke. This time, he couldn't speak, and the entire right side of his body was paralyzed. The chance to prevent it had come before, but he didn't recognize it. The difference between living independently and living in a wheelchair can sometimes come down to one simple decision: noticing the signs and acting immediately when the brain sends its first warning. In this video, I will share with you the knowledge every person over 60 needs to know. The famous FAST method, face, arm, speech, time, to recognize a stroke in seconds. 5 other silent but dangerous symptoms most people miss. And finally, small daily habits that, according to the American Heart Association, can reduce your stroke risk by up to 70%. You don't need to be a doctor to save a life. You just need to watch, to listen, and to call 911 at the right time. Because when it comes to stroke, time is brain.
First, sign 1, face drooping. One of the clearest and easiest warning signs of a stroke is when one side of the face suddenly droops. This can happen very subtly. Maybe the smile looks uneven, one corner of the mouth won't lift like it usually does, or one cheek looks lower than the other. The tricky part is that many people don't feel anything unusual, no pain, no numbness, no discomfort. In their mind, everything seems normal, but to others, the change is obvious. The reason is simple. The brain controls the facial muscles in a crisscross pattern. The left side of the brain controls the right side of the face, and vice versa. If even a small blood vessel in the brain is blocked or bursts, the signal to those muscles is interrupted. The result is weakness or even paralysis in one arm, while the other remains perfectly normal. According to the American Stroke Association, as many as 72% of strokes caused by blood clots begin with facial drooping, often appearing within the first 10 minutes. Yet nearly half of these cases are overlooked because the person doesn't realize it or assumes it's just fatigue, a bad sleeping position, or even ill-fitting dentures. Here's a simple test. Stand in front of a mirror and smile. If one side of the face doesn't lift like the other, or if the smile looks uneven, that's a dangerous warning. Another way is to ask a loved one to watch when you smile or talk, because very often they are the first to notice. What makes this sign so dangerous is how easily it's dismissed. A person may continue eating, chatting, even going about daily life, while inside the brain, a crisis has already begun. And just a few minutes of delay can allow the damage to spread, leaving permanent consequences. So if you or a loved one suddenly shows a crooked smile, a drooping cheek, sagging eyelid, or a mouth that won't lift, Treat it as a red alert signal. Don't wait. Call 911 immediately.
According to research from Harvard Medical School, if you cannot hold both arms straight out for 5 seconds, there's a 93% chance it may be an early sign of stroke. The National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke, or NINDS, also reports that more than 80% of stroke patients experience arm weakness or paralysis within the first 30 minutes. This makes it one of the most reliable early warning signs. Here's a simple test you can do right at home. Raise both arms straight in front of you at shoulder height, palms facing up, and hold them for 5 seconds. If one arm drifts downward, shakes, or feels noticeably heavier than the other, it's not just muscle fatigue. It could be your brain signaling distress. What's concerning is that many people blame it on age, sleeping wrong, or shoulder arthritis. But stroke-related weakness is different. It usually comes on suddenly, without pattern, and doesn't improve with massage or rest. Remember, if one arm suddenly becomes weak, treat it as a red alert signal. Don't wait to see if it gets better on its own. Because when one arm stops obeying, the parts of the brain that control speech, memory, or other movements may also be at risk. Sign 3, speech difficulty. One of the most critical signs of stroke is sudden trouble with speech or understanding language. A person who was just speaking normally may suddenly struggle to form clear words, begin to stutter, or produce jumbled sentences. Sometimes they know exactly what they want to say in their mind, but the words won't come out. Other times they can still speak, but can't understand what others are saying. This happens because the areas of the brain responsible for language, most often located in the left hemisphere, lose blood flow. Even a small clot can block the signal pathways, disrupting the brain's ability to coordinate speech and comprehension. A 2019 study published in the journal Stroke found that nearly 40% of stroke patients experience language problems within the first hour, yet only 12% of them recognized it. In other words, most people have no idea they're slurring or misusing words. Their survival often depends entirely on whether those around them notice in time.
Some easy warning signs include speech that suddenly becomes slow or halting, repeating words or phrases, using the wrong word, for example, saying cloud instead of water, sentences that don't make sense, or being completely silent even while awake and seemingly alert. A quick test is to ask the person to repeat a simple sentence, such as, "The sky is blue today." If they can't finish the sentence, use the wrong words, or their speech sounds slurred or confusing, treat it as a red alert signal. The danger is that families often dismiss this, assuming it's just fatigue, old age, or emotion. But waiting even a little can close the golden window for emergency treatment. With stroke, time truly is the brain. Sign 4. Time. Time is brain. Call 911 immediately. In the first 3 signs, face drooping, arm weakness, and speech difficulty, you've seen how the body can speak up in different ways. But there's one more letter in FAST that is just as important, and in fact, it can decide life or death. T. Time. During a stroke, every single minute means about 1.9 million brain cells are lost. These cells cannot regenerate. When you delay, you don't just lose time, you lose memory, speech, and the independence to live your daily life. That's why doctors emphasize time is brain. Sadly, many people miss their golden chance simply because they hesitate or wait. They notice their face drooping a little, an arm feeling weak, or their words slurring, but they think, "It'll probably pass, let's wait and see." They call their children, a friend, or even search online, and by the time they finally decide to call for help, the golden treatment window for clot-busting medication, usually just 3 to 4.5 hours from the first symptoms, has already closed. At that point, brain damage is often permanent. Research shows that if patients are treated within the first 3 hours, they have up to a 70% chance of a good recovery. But if treatment is delayed 5 hours, that chance drops to under 20%. Worse, the risk of dangerous bleeding in the brain from the medication doubles. That's why the T in FAST is not just the last letter, it's the most urgent action. Call 911 immediately when you see any suspicious sign. You don't need to be certain it's a stroke, you only need to suspect it and act.
Remember, making an unnecessary emergency call is harmless, but waiting could cost you or someone you love the rest of their life. Sometimes the broom doesn't warn with a crooked smile or a weak arm. Instead, it whispers through vague symptoms: a sudden severe headache, a brief loss of vision, an unsteady step, or a moment of confusion. Because these signals are so subtle, they're often ignored until the real stroke strikes, and by then it's too late to turn things around. That's why, in this next part, we'll uncover 5 dangerous but easily overlooked signs that quiet signals that many dismiss as no big deal. But trust me, sometimes it's those very small things that are the brain's final warning. Supplemental sign 1. Sudden, severe headache. Not every stroke begins with a drooping face or a weak arm. For many people, especially women over 60, a sudden, excruciating headache is the very first alarm bell. This is not the usual headache from lack of sleep, stress, or a change in the weather. This pain feels like a hammer blow, like lightning striking across the head, so intense it forces you to stop whatever you're doing. Some describe it as the worst headache of my life. The cause is often a blood vessel in the brain that has ruptured or started leaking, leading to bleeding inside the brain. As blood spills out, the pressure inside the skull rises rapidly, squeezing the brain tissue and causing unbearable pain. This may be accompanied by nausea, vomiting, dizziness, or blurred vision. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, about 1 in 10 patients with hemorrhagic stroke report a sudden, unusual headache as a warning sign, yet half of them don't go to the hospital right away, assuming it's just a migraine or tension headache. By the time they do seek help, the damage is often irreversible.
Here's what to remember. Ordinary headaches usually have a clear cause: lack of sleep, stress, or they build gradually over hours or days. But a stroke-related headache comes on suddenly, fiercely, and feels unlike anything you've experienced before. It strikes hard, fast, and often comes with other warning signs like vomiting, blurred vision, confusion, or weakness on one side of the body. If you or a loved one suddenly experiences a severe, unusual headache, don't reach for painkillers and don't wait for it to pass. Treat it as a red alert emergency and call 911 immediately. With hemorrhagic strokes, you don't have hours to spare. Sometimes you have only minutes to save the brain. Supplemental sign 2. Sudden vision loss in one eye. After a sudden, severe headache, another stroke warning sign that is often overlooked is temporary vision loss in one eye. It can happen instantly. You're reading the paper, watching TV, or taking a walk when suddenly one eye goes dark, as if a curtain has been pulled down. There's no pain, no redness, no tearing, just part of your world vanishing before your eyes. The dangerous part is that vision often returns to normal within minutes. Because of this, many people dismiss it as nothing serious and move on. In reality, this may be an early warning of a transient ischemic attack, TIA, sometimes called a mini-stroke. When a tiny blood clot briefly blocks blood flow to the retina or the part of the brain that controls vision, sight is lost. Once the clot dissolves or moves, vision returns. But a TIA is not harmless. According to research published in the Neurology Journal, 1 in 5 people who experience a TIA will suffer a full-blown stroke within days or weeks. The difference between vision loss from aging, such as cataracts or dry eye, and vision loss from stroke is clear.
Aging. Vision gradually blurs, usually in both eyes, progressing slowly over time. Stroke. Vision loss is sudden in one eye and appears and disappears quickly. Don't confuse the two. If one of your eyes suddenly goes dark, even for just a minute or two, it is not just fatigue or nothing to worry about. It is your brain crying out for help. Supplemental sign 3. Sudden dizziness or loss of balance. After temporary vision loss, another stroke warning sign that people often overlook is sudden dizziness or loss of balance. You might be sitting in a chair or just standing up when suddenly the whole room begins to spin. Your body feels pulled to one side and your steps become unsteady. Some describe the feeling as being drunk, even though they are completely sober. Others say it feels like walking on a tilted floor, unable to stay upright without holding on to furniture or walls. This happens because the cerebellum, the part of the brain that controls balance and coordination, is not getting enough blood and oxygen. Even a small clot blocking blood flow is enough to disrupt control, leaving you dizzy, off balance, or even vomiting. The danger is that this symptom is very easy to mistake for something else. Many people blame it on low blood pressure, fatigue, dehydration, or side effects from medication. But here's the difference. Stroke-related dizziness comes on suddenly, feels intense, and is paired with clear balance problems. If you suddenly cannot walk straight, cannot stand firmly, or must cling to a wall to avoid falling, that is not just normal dizziness. According to Johns Hopkins research, about 12% of cerebellar strokes are missed in the first medical evaluation because patients didn't show the classic FAST signs: face drooping, arm weakness, speech trouble. Instead, they only came in with dizziness and stumbling, and this confusion caused treatment delays. Remember, a brief dizzy spell may simply mean fatigue. But dizziness with sudden loss of balance without a clear reason, especially when paired with nausea or speech problems, is a red alert emergency.
Supplemental sign 4. Sudden confusion or trouble understanding speech. Not all strokes knock you down instantly. Sometimes the first warning is very quiet, unusual confusion or difficulty understanding what others are saying. You might be talking with your children or grandchildren when suddenly you don't understand their words, or when you try to respond, what comes out is jumbled, incorrect, or meaningless. At times, you can hear clearly, but your brain doesn't translate what your ears pick up. Other times, you know what you want to say, but your mouth won't cooperate to form the words. This shows that the areas of the brain responsible for language and processing information aren't getting enough blood supply. Just one small vessel blocked can throw the brain off frequency. The danger is that families often dismiss this, thinking, she's just tired, he's forgetful from age, or it's just normal confusion. But the difference is clear. Stroke-related confusion appears suddenly, is obvious, and is very unlike the person's usual behavior. Someone sharp and clear-headed may suddenly fail to name a common object, mix up words, or be unable to follow a simple instruction that is a red alert warning. According to the American Stroke Association, 1 in 4 strokes in adults over 65 begins with sudden changes in awareness, such as confusion, poor concentration, or difficulty understanding speech. Unfortunately, most are mistaken for just aging and not treated in time.
A simple test. Ask the person to follow an easy command, like raise your hand or touch your nose. If they seem confused, hesitate, or do it incorrectly even while awake and alert, that means the brain is in trouble. Supplemental sign 5. Numbness or loss of sensation on one side of the body. One of the most silent but dangerous stroke symptoms is sudden numbness or loss of feeling on one side of the body, often in the face, arm, or leg. You may be reading the paper and notice one arm tingling, like pins and needles. Or while walking, one leg drags, feels heavy, or doesn't sense the ground properly. Some people even realize they can't feel temperature on one side, like touching a cold glass of water with one hand, but not feeling the cold at all. This happens because the brain not only controls movement, but also processes sensation. When the part of the brain responsible for feeling in the face, arms, or legs loses blood flow, the connection is instantly disrupted. The result is sudden numbness, as if one side of the body no longer belongs to you. The danger is that many dismiss this or confuse it with something else. They think it's from sleeping on the arm, sitting too long, or the cold weather making the hands numb. But stroke-related numbness is different. It happens suddenly, only on one side, and does not quickly disappear with movement or position changes. According to the American Stroke Association, nearly 30% of patients admitted for stroke had numbness or loss of sensation on one side as their first symptom, not a headache or collapse. This is a strong reminder that quiet signs can sometimes be the most dangerous. A quick test. Lightly touch or pinch both arms. If the person clearly feels only one side or responds more slowly on one side, treat it as a red alert emergency. Stroke warning signs can be frightening, but here's the good news. You can lower your risk by more than 70% simply by making a few daily changes. Here are 5 simple, practical steps that anyone over 60 can start today. 1. Check your blood pressure regularly. 2. Remember fast and practice it monthly. 3. Eat for your brain's blood vessels. 4. Stay gently active. 5. Listen to your body and don't delay. Remember, the brain is not like the heart. You can't place a stent in it. You can't replace it. Every brain cell lost is lost forever. But with these 5 small habits, you can protect your brain, the place that holds your memories, your love, and your independence for many more years to come. We've now walked through the most important stroke warning signs, from fast face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty, and the urgency of time, to the silent symptoms like severe headache, sudden vision loss, dizziness, confusion, or numbness on one side. Any of these can appear minutes or even days before a major stroke. The message I want you to take away is this: never ignore your body's small signals. A slightly crooked smile, a brief dizzy spell, a simple word you struggle to say sometimes are the only chance you get to protect your brain. And with stroke, even a few minutes of delay can mean the difference between recovery and a lifetime of lost independence. The good news is you are not powerless. By remembering fast, checking blood pressure, eating smart, staying active, and listening to your body, you can take control. Stroke is not an unavoidable fate, it's a battle you can win by starting today. If you're watching this video and thinking about yourself, your spouse, your mother, your sister, or a close friend, share this video now. Just one timely reminder could save a life. Before you leave, please hit like if this video helped you realize something important. Leave a comment to share your experience or questions. Your story might be the wake-up call that helps hundreds of others. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell so each week we can keep learning practical, life-saving knowledge together. You deserve to live many more years sharp, independent, and happy. Your brain has carried a lifetime of memories, love, and experiences. Protect it starting today with attention, quick action, and the belief that every minute you care for your health is another minute of freedom and joy for yourself and the people you love.